I didn't throw my drink or make a scene. I just stood up, calmly, grabbed my coat, and walked out. The cold air outside the Harborview banquet hall hit like a slap. The snow had turned into sleet, ticking against the hood of my jacket as I walked toward my truck. Through the glass wall I could still see them. Lena laughing, Evan Mallory's hand around her waist like he'd claimed a prize. Inside, the crowd had gone silent. They'd remember that silence more than the kiss. I started the engine and watched their reflections blur in the glass as I pulled away. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't asleep anyway. Lena was snoring in the guest room. Her boss's wife's name flashed across the screen. Tara Mallory. Her voice was ice. "Your husband just sent me something," she said. "And your affair wasn't the worst part. Wish you knew which side of the table you're on tomorrow." Lena froze, mid-breath, when she realized I was standing in the doorway. I said nothing. Silence was my best weapon. Always had been. She tried to smile, to say something that would shrink the moment back to normal size, but there was no normal left. I texted my buddy Jules. "Open at 9?" He replied. "For you, 8. I pocketed something heavy, my old truck keys, sharp edges worn smooth from years of use, and went out into the dark. The town was half asleep, snow piled on the curbs, salt trucks rumbling. Harborview wasn't much. One main street, a factory, a harbor that smelled like rust and diesel. The automation plant where I worked had gutted half the town, but I still had a job keeping the machines running. A maintenance tech isn't glamorous, but you learn how systems break and how to break them better. Jules's bar sat under the old Union Hall, neon sign flickering like it was coughing. He had a coffee waiting. "I heard about the party," he said. "News travels fast," I said. "Gossip travels faster. You want the list?" I nodded. He poured it out like a bartender priest. "She fixed Evan's tie. Twice. Nobody fixes a tie twice unless it's foreplay. Then there was the raffle break. She came back smelling like peppermint schnapps." My jaw clenched, but I kept my face steady. "Anyone get photos?" "Half the plant. But you didn't need photos. She made sure of that." "Good," I said. "Let her make herself the proof." By noon, I was back at the plant. My supervisor, Marta, a woman with the calm of a nuclear technician, met me by the break room. "You hear what's going on upstairs?" she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Lena's been tagging along to management briefings. She's pitching herself for the realignment team, the one deciding who gets cut next quarter." "Deciding who gets cut," I repeated. "So that's the side of the table." "She's been real cozy with Evan," Marta added, watching me carefully. "You didn't hear that from me." At lunch, I saw Evan in the parking lot. His car, a red coupe with vanity plates, was idling. He saw me and smirked. "Hey, Calder," he said, voice oily. "Rough night?" "Not as rough as yours is about to be." He laughed, that kind of laugh that assumes you're bluffing. "Look, it's not personal. You two were drifting. Happens." I stepped closer, calm. "You should put your hands in your pockets." "Why's that?" "So they don't start shaking before I'm done talking." He moved, shoulder forward, the old alpha dog thing. I didn't hit him. I just let his momentum carry him into the side of his own car. His jacket sleeve caught on the mirror. The sound of fabric tearing was satisfying. He stumbled back, red-faced. "Feel better?" he spat. "Not yet," I said. Then, loud enough for 2 co-workers smoking nearby, "Next time you kiss a married woman, check if her husband's standing behind you." I walked off, his car keys jingling lightly in my palm. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You don't know what tomorrow is. Meet?" "Tara?" I guessed. "Yes," she wrote. "Pier, 10 a.m. Don't be late." I smiled. "Wouldn't dream of it," I replied. Then, using another number, I sent Evan a short, anonymous message. "Meet me at the pier, 10 a.m. Important. Let them crash into each other. I'd just watch the tide roll in. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The harbor wind cut like razors, slicing through the morning mist and stinging every patch of exposed skin. Gulls wheeled above the gray water, their cries sharp and humorless, like witnesses too jaded to care. At 10 sharp, Tara Mallory appeared at the far end of the dock. She moved quickly, shoulders hunched, hood drawn tight against the cold. Her sunglasses hid the sleepless eyes I already knew would be there. She looked brittle but alive, like something that had survived a fire and hadn't decided whether that was a good thing. "You were calm at that party," she said without preamble. Her voice was raw, not from crying but from holding too much inside. "That scared me more than if you'd screamed." "I'm saving it," I said. "You mentioned something about tomorrow?" She nodded, a small, careful motion that barely disturbed the air between us. "Tomorrow, Evan's presenting a vendor deal. He's calling it a turnaround showcase. Lena's supposed to be his HR face for the cameras. They plan to announce restructuring, cuts to your department included." So that was the side of the table. All the careful silences of the past month clicked into place. The late meetings, the whispers outside conference doors, the way Lena's smile had become something she wore instead of felt. Tara reached into her coat and pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from cold. She showed me a photo. Evan standing in the lobby, confident grin, perfect posture. Behind him, a whiteboard crowded with next quarter's numbers. A snapshot of corporate arrogance. "This was taken last month," she said. "He didn't realize the whiteboard behind him had next quarter's numbers. It was public. No hacking. You can use it." "I don't need to," I said. "I just need him to feel seen." "You're not going to the cops?" "No," I said. "Just optics." A pause stretched between us, long enough for the wind to fill it with the sound of halyards clanging against metal masts. Then, from behind her, footsteps. Heavy. Determined. Evan, approaching, scanning the dock with that cautious look predators get when they sense something's wrong with the hunt. He thought he was meeting a source. When he saw both of us, he stopped short. The wind tugged at his coat, whipping it around him like a flag. "Nate?" he said, his voice low and uncertain. "What is this?" "Closure," I said. He turned to Tara, suspicion flickering into rage. "You set me up?" "No, Evan," she said flatly. "You set yourself up." He lunged forward, one quick, ugly movement, but I sidestepped. His shoes hit the slick boards, skidding. For a second, he windmilled, caught himself on a post, swore under his breath. I didn't touch him. Didn't have to. The humiliation was enough, the loss of balance, the flash of fear. He straightened, breathing hard, eyes flicking between us like a cornered animal. Then he turned and ran. I followed. The boardwalk curved toward the frozen parking lot, planks creaking under our feet. A gull screeched overhead, as if demanding front-row seats. Evan sprinted, his expensive shoes slipping on black ice, one arm flailing for balance. A few joggers slowed, phones half raised, uncertain whether they were seeing a confrontation or an impromptu comedy. He turned a corner, panting, and froze again, because I was already there, standing by his coupe. "How?" he managed, eyes wide. "Local shortcut," I said. "Maintenance tech. I know every back stair in this town." He glanced at his pocket, panic dawning. He patted it once, then again, faster, empty. I held up his car fob between two fingers. The chrome reflected the winter sun, flashing like a blade. I pressed the button. The coupe chirped 3 blocks away, in the wrong lot. His face drained of color. He knew what it meant. I could reach anything he valued, at any time. "Stay away from me," he said. "That depends on how far you run," I replied, tossing him the fob. It hit his chest with a small, satisfying thud. "You'll need that." He caught it awkwardly, stared at me a moment longer, then got into the car. The engine growled to life. He drove off without looking back, tires squealing on the thin crust of frost that covered the lot. The sound faded into the distance until all that was left was the wind and the slow rhythm of the tide below. That night, I mapped everything. Timeline, witnesses, optics. No laws broken, just social physics. The kind of equilibrium you find when pressure meets leverage. You push the right domino, and people do the rest. The plan wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about precision. If you wanted chaos to look like coincidence, you had to choreograph it perfectly. The apartment was dim when I got home, lights low, the kind of silence that waits for someone to fill it. Lena came in late, her heels clicking against the tile, her makeup flawless. She looked like she'd practiced the expression she wore. The smile was there, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You went to work?" she asked, surprise flickering for just a second. "Someone has to keep the lights on," I said. She hovered in the doorway, unsure whether to sit or stand, caught between guilt and performance. "You're not going to yell?" she asked finally. "Why waste volume?" I said. "Silence carries farther." Her jaw tightened. "You're being creepy." "Creepy," I said. "Noted." She left the room, her perfume trailing behind her, faint as regret. From the hallway came the buzz of her phone, then the muffled whisper, "Tomorrow's still on? Good, he's not a problem." She was wrong. I stayed up the rest of the night, sketching out contingencies on scrap paper. Every move had to be reversible, deniable, quiet. By morning, the plan felt less like revenge and more like gravity, inevitable once it started. The city was waking up outside, gray and cold, the streets dusted with snow that had forgotten how to be beautiful. At dawn, I texted Marta from the floor office. "We still doing that safety drill Monday?" "Yep," she replied within seconds. "Filed last week, noon sharp." Perfect timing, right in the middle of the vendor tour. Evan would be showing off the new production floor, cameras rolling, Lena at his side rehearsing empathy for the layoffs she'd help announce. They'd call it a restructuring, a streamline, maybe even a growth pivot. Words that meant other people's mortgages would disappear. I leaned back in my chair, watching the steam rise from the paper cup of coffee I hadn't touched. Then I texted Jules. He owed me favors, and more importantly, he enjoyed the art of rumor. "Need you to spread a few details around town," I wrote. "Not lies, just truth, arranged like landmines." "Which truths?" he asked. "Tell people Evan double-parked his coupe last week. Tell them Lena said she doesn't date men who own work boots. Use those exact words." He laughed. "That'll travel." "Good. Let it." The thing about small towns is that gossip moves faster than news. It doesn't matter what's true, only who says it first and how many people nod before thinking. By the time Evan arrived for his big presentation, he'd already be an anecdote, not a man. Later that morning, I went to the plant lot. The air smelled of oil and winter. I parked Evan's coupe across 2 executive spots, right in front of the glass entrance. Then I left Lena's favorite scarf, cream wool, soft, expensive, perfume faint as regret, draped neatly across the passenger seat. A small thing, but small things have gravity. They pull attention, bend perception. Someone would notice. Someone always does. The optics grenade was armed. Afterward, I walked the long way home, past the old pier where the fishing boats still groaned against their ropes. The sky had cleared, pale sunlight breaking through like a reluctant promise. My hands ached from the cold, but I barely felt it. My mind was elsewhere, rehearsing outcomes. Evan would see the car first. He'd know it wasn't supposed to be there. Then he'd see the scarf. Then he'd start asking himself questions he didn't want the answers to. He'd think about who had access, who might have seen. The spiral would begin on its own. I wouldn't need to push anymore. By noon the next day, the plant was buzzing. Vendors in pressed suits, cameras setting up by the entrance, local press leaning on tripods. Inside, the workers moved like ghosts, polite but watchful. Word had spread about the parking lot, about the scarf, about Lena's rumored comments. None of it traced back to me. It didn't have to. Truth, when fractured just right, cuts sharper than lies. Evan looked immaculate when he arrived. Tailored coat, new haircut, that performative grin of a man who's already rehearsed every handshake. Lena was beside him, poised, perfect. They looked like an advertisement for confidence. But underneath the surface, cracks were forming. I could see it in the way his eyes kept darting toward the parking lot windows, scanning for something. I could see it in how Lena's hand brushed her phone every few seconds, as if waiting for a message that wouldn't come. At 11:55, the safety alarm blared. Marta had kept her word. The vendor tour froze mid-step, cameras whirring in confusion. Bright lights strobed, casting everyone in alternating flashes of red and white. People started moving toward the exits, murmuring. Someone shouted, "Drill!" and the tension eased, but not completely. The footage would still roll. Evan's carefully choreographed presentation would dissolve into chaos. A few seconds of confusion, but enough to look disastrous on video. Later, when the clips circulated online, it would look like the company couldn't even manage a fire drill during its turnaround showcase. By 1 o'clock, the executives were shouting at the PR team. By 2, half the office knew about the car and the scarf. By 3, Lena's social accounts went private. Optics, indeed. I didn't celebrate. I just watched from the mezzanine, coffee cooling in my hand, as the chain reaction unfolded. Tara passed me in the hall once, gave a small nod, nothing more. No triumph, no relief, just acknowledgement. Some debts can't be settled with gratitude. That night, I returned to the harbor. The wind was calmer, almost gentle now. The water reflected the streetlights in long, trembling lines. I thought about Evan, probably somewhere in damage control mode, and Lena, calculating exits. Maybe they'd both survive this. Maybe not. It didn't matter. The point wasn't destruction. It was symmetry, the balance of what's seen and unseen. The harbor wind no longer cut like razors. It just whispered through the rigging, carrying away the last traces of guilt I no longer needed to hold. Monday came gray and cold. The vendor delegation arrived with cameras and smiles too white for the weather. Evan was all swagger until he saw his car straddling the lines, scarf on display through the windshield. Phones lifted, clicks everywhere. Lena cornered me near the stairwell. "Did you do this?" she hissed. "Do what?" I said. "You think this makes you look strong? You're pathetic." "I think it makes you look busy," I said. "You've got a presentation to save." She glared, then stormed off. Evan found me 10 minutes later. "You think this is funny?" "I think it's poetic." He shoved me hard. I stumbled back but caught the rail. He swung again, wild. I ducked, used his own weight, and drove him backward into the wall. The impact echoed. Security arrived just as he cursed, fists still raised. "You all right, Calder?" one of the guards asked. "I'm fine," I said. "He just slipped." The guard looked at Evan, panting, face flushed. "Maybe you should cool off, Mr. Mallory." Perfect timing. The fire alarms went off. Marta's scheduled drill. The whole floor erupted in flashing lights and shouts. Vendors froze mid-tour. Cameras still rolling. The crowd surged toward the exits. In the chaos, Tara appeared by the lobby doors, phone in hand, recording as Evan and Lena argued in full view. "You planted this," Evan shouted. "You parked like a child," Lena yelled back. The vendors whispered, wide-eyed. One of them, a sharp woman in a gray coat, muttered, "So this is the leadership team?" I didn't say a word. I just stood there, hands in pockets, as everything they'd built unraveled in public. That evening, the sky broke open with freezing rain. Evan's car sat in the deck, plastered with sticky notes someone had added during the day. Each one said, "Real partner." Cameras had caught it. His social feed was melting down. Lena tried to corner me in the kitchen that night. "You did this," she said. "You're destroying us." "Us?" I said. "That word's expired. You're insane." "No," I said. "I'm precise." She tried to slap me. I caught her wrist gently, then let go. "Don't," I said quietly. "Not tonight." At 10 p.m., headlights flashed outside. Evan's coupe pulled into his own driveway, windshield smeared with half-frozen snow. I followed at a distance, same road, legal speed. Just another driver heading home. He got out, slammed his door, started toward the porch. I pressed his fob from a block away. The coupe's locks clicked. He spun around, eyes wide. He saw me stepping out of the shadows. "What do you want?" he said, voice shaking. "Just conversation." "Stay away from my house. You brought me here when you kissed my wife. You can't prove anything." "I don't have to. They already did." He glanced toward the lit windows. Curtains twitched, neighbors watching. He took a step forward, fists tight. "You think you're a hero?" he said. "No," I said. "I'm the guy you didn't see coming." I slammed his car door so hard the alarm chirped. He jumped. "You touch me and I'll call the cops," he warned. "Please do," I said. "They love seeing upper management cry." He moved closer, trying to regain ground. I stepped in and delivered one open-handed slap, fast, sharp, echoing like a gunshot. He froze, hand to cheek, eyes wet. "Now we're even," I said. "For the tie, the raffle, the parking lot, and the scarf." Lights came on up and down the street. Phones appeared in windows. Evan looked around, realizing the whole neighborhood was watching. I leaned in close. "Smile for your real partners," I whispered. Then I turned, walked to my truck, and tossed his fob onto the snow. As I drove off, the sirens started in the distance. Could have been weather alerts. Could have been him calling for help. Didn't matter. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing there, drenched, his perfect world collapsing under porch lights and whispers. For the first time in days, I smiled.